Hola chicos, bienvenidos a otra lección. Welcome to another lecture para el capítulo 4. Hoy vamos a hablar sobre las preguntas. We're going to be talking about how to form questions. Pero antes, before that, quiero que piensen sobre algunas preguntas que ustedes ya han escuchado en la clase. So what are some of the questions that we've done or we've learned in class since the beginning of the semester? Tenemos aquí 5 preguntas en la presentación. And what I would like you to do is to look at these questions, these 5 questions, and write them in español as if you were to ask someone else these questions in español. So, tenemos, how are you? How would you say, how are you? How would you ask that en español? How are you? Número 2, where are you from? How do you ask, where are you from en español? What do you like to do en español? How would you ask that question? Número 4, when is your birthday? How would you ask your friend or someone you've met? How would you ask them, when is your birthday en español? Y por último, número 5, how do you ask someone, how old are you? You can think, take a few seconds. Maybe you already know them top of your head, and maybe you're looking through your notes. Pero ¿cómo hacemos estas preguntas? How is it that we can ask these questions en español? So maybe you have these questions. How are you? ¿Cómo estás? Where are you from? ¿De dónde eres? What do you like to do? ¿Qué te gusta hacer? When is your birthday? ¿Cuándo es tu cumpleaños? And how old are you? ¿Cuántos años tienes? And so we've seen these questions, right, since the beginning of the semester. ¿Cómo estás? ¿De dónde eres? ¿Qué te gusta hacer? ¿Cuándo es tu cumpleaños? ¿Cuántos años tienes? Quiero que miren aquí estas preguntas. I want you to look at these questions en español, and I want you to make note of some similarities, differences that you might see between these 5 questions. And so hopefully you were able to talk about these words, right? ¿Cómo? ¿De dónde? ¿Qué? ¿Cuándo? ¿Cuántos? So these are our interrogative words, ¿sí? Nuestras preguntas interrogativas. And this is one way we form questions in español, right? This is the most common way. ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo? How? Did you see that? ¿De dónde eres? Where are you from? See? From where? Right? ¿De dónde? ¿Qué te gusta hacer? What? ¿Cuándo es tu cumpleaños? When? ¿Y cuántos años tienes? How old are you, right? Or how many or how much? ¿Cuántos? And so maybe you've noticed these question words. Maybe you've noticed the question marks. See, in Espanol, we have the question marks. We have 2. Now in English, we have just 1 question mark. In Espanol, you need an inverted question mark at the beginning and a regular question mark at the end, okay? And so when you add the question marks, or when you see a phrase that has an inverted question mark and a question mark at the end, that means it is a question, es una pregunta. Another thing that you noticed here with the question word is that they all have a tilde, right? Un acento. They all have an accent mark, right? And so cuando queremos hacer una pregunta, when we want to write a question or form a question, all of the question words are going to have a tilde embedded, okay? So just make sure that you are putting it in the correct letter, right? It's most likely a vowel. You're never going to see it in a C or an M, right? You're going to see it in O, E, A, okay, I. Entonces, we have the tilde, we have the question words, and we have the question marks. Now, en español, hay tres formas en las que puedes escribir una pregunta. Right? There are three ways that we can form questions en español. La primera es question words, right? Usando las palabras interrogativas, the one we saw, questions we've been using, right? La segunda manera es usar declaraciones, using statements and making questions out of statements, right? So this might be the easiest way, right? But we are using those basic questions with question words, right? And so if we look at the example here that I gave you for the statements, we have a statement. Tenemos una declaración. Miguel habla español, right? In English would be Miguel speaks Spanish, right? It's a statement, speaks Spanish, pero si queremos hacer una pregunta, right? If we want to know if Miguel speaks Spanish or we want to make that into a question, we add the inverted question mark at the beginning and we add that question mark at the end. And the thing that changes here is the intonation or the way I say this question now versus how I would say in a statement. So let's listen and see if you can see or if you can hear the differences. Y van a escuchar la diferencia. Miguel habla español versus Miguel habla español. Hopefully you are able to hear that. Not Miguel habla español. Miguel habla español. There's a difference. Intonation, it goes up, right? When I'm asking a question. Miguel habla español, right? Versus Miguel habla español. Tenemos una tercera manera y estos son los tags o el uso de las etiquetas, ¿no? Miguel habla español, ¿no? O Miguel habla español, ¿verdad? Right? So instead of adding the inverted question mark to the whole statement, we're just adding these tags no and verdad at the end of the statement. And these are usually just to make sure, right, to ask or to confirm some type of information. In this case, we want to know if Miguel speaks Spanish. So we want to say, Miguel habla español. No. Again, intonation on just that tag. No or verdad. Entonces, las palabras interrogativas, again, these are the questions that we've been practicing, right? ¿Qué haces? What are you doing? ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cuándo trabajas? When, right? ¿Cuándo trabajas? ¿Cuándo estudias? ¿Cuáles son tus clases favoritas? ¿O cuáles son tus actividades favoritas? ¿A dónde vas? Now this one, ¿a dónde? Right? To where are you going? ¿A dónde vas? Right? It's kind of similar like ¿a qué hora? Right? When we talked about the time, right? At what time? But in here, ¿a dónde? Is ¿a dónde vas? To, like, where are you going to, right? To where are you going? Something like that. ¿Dónde? ¿Dónde están los libros? Where are the books? ¿Cuántos? ¿Cuántos años tienes? Again, ¿quién or quiénes? ¿Quién es ese hombre? ¿Quién esas mujeres? So this is singular and plural. Entonces, tenemos las palabras interrogativas and this is usually placed before the verb, right? So we have the question word and then we have the verb hacer. We have the question word, we have the verb estar, right? We have the question word and we have the verb trabajar o estudiar. We have the question word and then we have the verb ser. We have the question word and we have the verb ir. We have the question word, we have the verb estar, right? We have the question word, and then we have the verb tener. In this case, años, we're referring to the years. We have the question word quién, and then we have the verb es, or quiénes, and son, right? And so we have more palabras interrogativas, right? ¿Qué, cómo, cuándo, cuál, or cuáles, which one or which ones, right? Which one? Let's see, which one? Which ones? Más bien, sí. Okay. ¿A dónde? Where to? ¿Dónde? Where? ¿Cuánto? ¿Cuánta? ¿Cuántos? ¿Cuántas? Again, these even have to match with the gender and the number. So, ¿cuántos would be one of those that has to. Okay, ¿cuál or cuáles? This one is just singular or plural. You wouldn't change the cuál to cuálas, right? An AS, feminine, is just cuáles. This one, ¿cuántos? ¿Cuántas? ¿Cuánto? ¿Cuánta? Then this one you would change it, but singular, right? ¿Cuánto? Masculine. ¿Cuánta? Feminine. ¿Cuántos? Masculine, plural. Y ¿cuántas? Feminine, plural. Okay, so ¿cuánto? Take note of that one. Y ¿cuáles? ¿Quién or quiénes, right? ¿Quién is who, right? And then plural. ¿Y por qué? Why? So we have these question words that you might encounter and the activities that you have for this week. Ok, la segunda forma o la segunda manera de escribir una pregunta es usar declaraciones. It's just like it sounds. You can make a question out of a sentence without changing anything. But you're adding the intonation. Remember on the example that I provided you with? You have to change the intonation and you have to add the inverted question mark in the regular question mark. So you can make it easy and just do a statement, convert it into a question by changing the intonation and adding those question marks. But you can also change the order of how you write the sentence. So you can change the order of the statement by changing the subject and the verb. And we'll look at some examples here. So, tenemos la declaración. La clase de español es a las 9 de la mañana. Right? That's just a statement. ¿A qué hora es la clase? At what time is class? A las 9 de la mañana. Muy bien. La clase de español es a las 9 de la mañana. Statement. Now, la vamos a cambiar, ¿sí? A una pregunta y vamos a cambiar la entonación y vamos a agregar los signos de interrogación, right? The question marks. Now, it goes from la clase de español es a las 9 de la mañana to la clase de español es a las 9 de la mañana. Okay? So, la clase de español es a las 9 de la mañana. So, kind of imagine a line. You start here. La clase de español es a las 9 de la mañana. Versus la clase de español es a las 9 de la mañana. Right? It kind of goes up. The intonation goes up towards the end. La clase de español es a las 9 de la mañana. Now, this is like the easier one. Again, we're just changing intonation and adding those question marks. If we want to challenge ourselves and we want to switch the order of the subject and the verb, we can ask, ¿es a las 6 o a las 9, más bien 6? Let's see. A las 9. Es a las 9 de la mañana la clase de español. So you still have that intonation there, right? The question marks, but we changed the subject, which is la clase, and the verb ser, right? La clase de español, this is our subject. Clase es, right? It's the verb ser. So we now change es to the front. Es a las 9 de la mañana la clase de español. So you didn't have to add anything. You didn't have to take away words, right? Es a las 9 de la mañana. That goes to the front. La clase de español goes to the end. You can just flip it, okay? So if you want to challenge yourselves and try to change the order, you can. But if you're not sure, if you want to, you can try it, you can always try it. But if you're not sure, and you just want to stick to it the simple way, just change the intonation and add those question marks, okay? Así que tenemos estas declaraciones, perdón. Vamos a convertirlas a preguntas. Tenemos 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 declaraciones y vamos a cambiarlas a preguntas. So we're going to convert these questions, these statements into questions. So vamos a ver. You can pause the video, pueden pausar el video, or we can work on them together. Así que vamos a ver. I'm going to share a new screen. Let me just kind of write them down here. En mi notas. Tenemos Juan Fernando, muy bien. Fernanda, Fernanda. La fiesta es el viernes. Omar y Marcela tienen 2 hijos. Juan. Julio. Muy bien. Vamos aquí, hopefully this works. Ok. Tenemos aquí la pizarra o whiteboard here. El número 1 tenemos Juan Fernando y su familia viven en Costa Rica. ¿Sí? Muy bien. Juan Fernando y su familia viven en Costa Rica. Statement. Okay. What does it mean? Juan Fernando and his family live en Costa Rica. Número 2. Fernanda habla 2 idiomas. Chino y español. Again, it's a statement. It's telling us what other languages Fernanda speaks, right? What 2 languages she speaks. Número 3, la fiesta es el viernes. Excelente, it's a statement. Party is on Friday. Número 4, tenemos, Omar y Marcela tienen 2 hijos. Statement as well. Omar y Marcela have 2 kids. Número 5. Juan nació el 26 de julio de 1999. Ok, tenemos aquí. Muy bien. Entonces tenemos las 5 declaraciones. Juan Fernando y su familia viven en Costa Rica. ¿Vale? So, vamos a trabajar con esa. Si quiero convertir esta declaración en pregunta, ¿qué necesito agregar? Or what do I need to do to change the statement to a question? What is it that we need at the beginning? Hopefully you said an inverted question mark. Si estás trabajando en Mac, if you have a Mac computer, I forgot, let me see, let me try. I think it's like Control Alt and then the question mark. Might be Control Alt and then the question mark, the regular question mark. It'll convert it into an inverted question mark. If you're working with a Dell or other type of computer that's not a Mac, you want to use a number, you want to use Alt 0191. Yeah, Alt 0191 or 0191. That gives you the inverted question mark. Okay, so tenemos aquí ya el signo de interrogación y vamos a escribir Juan Fernando y su familia viven en Costa Rica. Ok, entonces ya le agregamos los signos de interrogación. Now what? Ahora, ¿qué hago? Now we have to change the intonation. So it's going to go from Juan Fernando y su familia viven en Costa Rica to Juan Fernando y su familia viven en Costa Rica. Okay, so repeat after me. Juan Fernando y su familia viven en Costa Rica. Okay. So, número dos. So, this is just the one way, right? If we want to switch the order, recuerden que podemos cambiar el sujeto y el verbo. We can also change the subject and the verb. Can mix it around. So, we still need our inverted question mark. And so, what is our subject? Right? What are we talking about? Right? Juan Fernando y su familia. They are our subject, right? Juan Fernando y su familia. And what is the verb? ¿Cuál es el verbo? Vivir, right? To live. Viven. So we want to switch those. And we're going to say viven in Costa Rica. Juan Fernando y su familia. Still the intonation, right? I'm going to change, oops. Uy, uy. Viven en Costa Rica. Change that to the front. And vamos a cambiar nuestro sujeto. Después, you guys see that change? We need to identify our verb. And then we write viven en Costa Rica Juan Fernando y su familia. Subject. Hopefully you guys are understanding. If you guys have more questions, please let me know. Okay? Bueno, esa fue la número 1. Now vamos a hacer número 2. And you can work ahead if you have time. Just taking my time, make sure that I am going through each of one of these and breaking it down for you. Número 2. Read it with me. Fernanda habla 2 idiomas, chino y español. ¿Sí? Repite conmigo, repeat after me. Fernanda habla 2 idiomas, chino y español. That is our statement. Pero, ¿cómo lo convertimos a una pregunta? How do we convert that into a question? We add an inverted question mark and a regular question mark. Ahora quiero que tomen 1 segundo, 2 segundos, 5 segundos, 5 seconds to identify the subject and the verb. Now this one's a bit tricky because we have chino y español. And I'll show you the 2 ways that we can write this one. Okay, so we have Fernanda habla 2 idiomas, chino y español. That would be a question. Oh, I think I skipped that one. I skipped the intonation. Okay, so after we add the question marks, we are going to change the intonation from Fernanda habla 2 idiomas, chino y español, to Fernanda habla 2 idiomas, chino y español. Okay, but intonation again at the end. If we want to change the subject and the verb here, we can do it 2 ways. Now here, because we have the languages that she speaks, we can write it two ways, but we are going to be taking out certain things. So the first way would be question mark. Habla, right? Because we're identifying the verb hablar. Habla dos idiomas. And then our subject, which is Fernanda. That is one way. Habla dos idiomas, Fernanda. See? One way. Again, this is just kind of like the chino en español. That's just kind of extra in that statement. You can ask it if you just convert it like here in the first form that we have. But if we want to switch it around, we can have the verb, see, and our subject, because we're talking about Fernanda, right? Habla dos idiomas, Fernanda. Or también pueden hacer la pregunta de, ¿habla chino y español, Fernanda? Did I see that? So here, I left out chino y español. And here, I left out dos idiomas. Habla chino y español, Fernanda, but we're still keeping the verb and we're keeping our subject. See that? This comes from hablar, right? You can either habla dos idiomas or habla chino y español for this one, okay? We have our verb here, and we have our subject. We have the verb here, and we have the subject, okay? Muy bien. Después tenemos... Okay. Tenemos la fiesta. So repite conmigo, repeat after me. La fiesta es el viernes. ¿Cuándo es la fiesta? When is the party? Okay. La fiesta es el viernes. Repite it with me. La fiesta es el viernes. Bien. How are we converting this into a question? Question mark, an inverted question mark. We have la fiesta es el viernes. Now we change the intonation. Now you try to ask this question by yourself, and then I'll let you know. So try it out. We have la fiesta es el viernes. By yourself, how would you ask this question? If it sounded something like this, la fiesta es el viernes. Muy bien. La fiesta es el viernes versus la fiesta es el viernes. See? It's like a little more pause. La fiesta es el viernes. La fiesta es el viernes. See? Now, if we want to change the subject and the verb, we must identify. Vamos a identificar nuestro verbo y nuestro sujeto, our verb and our subject. ¿Cuál es el verbo? What is the verb that we're using here? If you said es, muy bien, right? Es el viernes. ¿Es el viernes la fiesta? Or, ¿es la fiesta el viernes? Right? So if you have any of these two variations, they're both correct. ¿Es el viernes la fiesta? Because you still have the verb before the subject, right? Es el viernes, this is just telling you when. Es el viernes la fiesta? La fiesta is our subject. Okay? O es la fiesta, subject. And then when? El viernes, right? So as long as we have the verb and the subject right after, doesn't matter where here, these two would work. Okay. Excelente, chicos. If you have questions, maybe write them down and you can send me a message after. And I'll be able to answer them for you. Tenemos dos más. We have two more. Y tenemos Omar y Marcela. Tienen dos hijos. Omar y Marcela tienen dos hijos. Es a statement, ¿sí? Omar y Marcela tienen dos hijos. Converted to the question, we need the inverted question mark. Omar y Marcela tienen dos hijos. Again, try it by yourself. How would you ask this question with the right intonation, right? So you wouldn't, you shouldn't be saying Omar y Marcela tienen dos hijos right here because now it's a question. So how would you ask that question? Si dijiste algo así, if you said something like this, Omar y Marcela tienen dos hijos. Correcto. Omar y Marcela tienen dos hijos. Now, trying to switch the verb and the subject. See? Now here, you can only do it one way. Find the verb. What's the verb, chicos? ¿Cuál es nuestro verbo? Vamos a hacer verde. Wait, maybe azul. Tienen. Nuestro verbo es tienen. ¿Sí? Tienen dos hijos. It's gonna go first. Y después, Omar y Marcela, switch, ¿sí? Entonces va a ser algo así. Question mark. Tienen dos hijos. Who are we talking? Who has two kids? Tienen dos hijos, Omar y Marcela. ¿Tienen dos hijos, Omar y Marcela? Dos. Solamente dos. Okay. So hopefully you were able to get this one right. Tienen dos hijos, Omar y Marcela. Still intonation, but we're switching the verbs. Muy bien. The subject and the verb. Okay. Y por último, last one. Juan nació el 26 de julio de 1999. What are we going to do? What's the first thing we do when we want to change a statement to a question mark? I mean, I gave you the answer. To a question. Vamos a escribir el signo de interrogación. We're going to add the inverted question mark. Y vamos a escribir con igual. Lo vamos a escribir. We're going to write the same thing. 6 de julio de 1999. ¿Ok? Pero aquí ya le agregamos los signos de interrogación y lo que vamos a cambiar es el modo, ¿sí? La entonación en que vamos a hacer esta pregunta. Intonation changes. Again, intonation, guys. Chicos, por favor. Juan nació el 26 de julio de 1999. Intonation goes up, it doesn't go down, it goes up because it's a question. Juan nació el 26 de julio de 1999, right? Like el 9 at the end. Juan nació el 26 de julio de 1999. Okay, so try it with me. Juan nació el 26 de julio, de 1999, Now, all together. Juan nació el 26 de julio de 1999, right? Y cuando hagan la pregunta, when you're doing that, asking that question, you want to make that face, right? Like, oh, I don't know. I'm asking a question, right? Juan nació el 26 de julio de 1999, ¿sí o no? Right? So when we ask questions, we tend to do some type of facial features. Hopefully it's not just me, but making facial expressions help, right? To express that question or to give your the person you're asking the question to say, hey, I'm asking you a question. Okay, so maybe you want to try to do that. Pero también podemos cambiar el verbo y el sujeto, right? Our subject and our verb. So what is that subject here? Or what's the verb? Más bien. What is our verb? Our verb is nacer, right? To be born. Might be a new one for you all, but it's nacer. That's our verb. Right? And who's our subject? Who are we talking about? ¿De quién estamos hablando? Estamos hablando de Juan. ¿Sí? So, vamos a ver cómo lo podemos cambiar. How can we write it? So, we know we need our inverted question mark. We need our verb. Nació, right? ¿Nació qué? El 26, it's so long. El 26 de julio 1999. Juan. If it's a long like statement or a long question, you can add a comma. Nació el 26 de julio de 1999 Juan. Right? Again, intonation is still there. We just played around with the order of the words. Okay. So hopefully this was helpful to you. And so you will see some activities. You also see some tutorial videos that it's going to go over these different forms that we can write and form questions in Espanol. But that is our second way that we form questions in Spanish. Now, the third one, see, they're just son preguntas de etiqueta. These are just question tags. These are not like full-on questions, but these are the tags that you can add to the statements to ask really fast questions or just to confirm when you want to confirm information, right? So we have our statement, la clase de español es a las 9. No, again, the intonation, no, right? Es a las 6 la clase de español, ¿verdad? Right? ¿Verdad? O nos vemos en la clase de química, ¿vale? Now, vale, it's mostly used in España. In other Spanish-speaking countries, it's not as common as no or verdad, but you also hear this one as well, like vale, like okay. Verdad is like right, and no is like also like right, no, see or no. And so you just want to add these at the end and the question mark. You see the question marks here, both of them, just go in the tags and not in the entire sentence, because then otherwise you would be doing this, right? Where we get the statements and then we convert the whole statement into the question. This is more like, okay, briefly, yes or no. La clase de español es a las 9 de la mañana, no? Right? Yes, right? A quick answer. Es a las 6 de la clase de español. Es a las 6 la clase de español, ¿verdad? Yeah, sí o no? Yes or no? O nos vemos en la clase de química. I'll see you, we'll see each other in chemistry, right? Okay, okay, cool, right? So those type of questions, these type of questions with the tags, they're really brief questions, right? It's like yes or no questions, maybe. And so it's just, see, no, okay, vale. And so this one, I don't think you'll see questions with the tags, but if you do happen to encounter some of those questions and connect with the tags, these are the tags that you will want to use. No and verdad are going to be the most common. Okay, chicos, then that is it for this lesson. That was pretty quick. Hopefully, it was clear, the information was clear for you, the activity that we had with converting those statements into questions. But if you have any more questions, if there are questions that you had during this lesson, please send them to me right away and I'll be able to send you or reply to your message as soon as possible. Pero eso es todo por hoy. This is it for this lesson. Nos vemos en la próxima sección. Hasta luego, chicos.